Actually, I am right now, first let me share the feeling. It's full of gratitude. It's gratitude because so many people have worked so hard. And I always say giving credit to me for anything would be like a very big sin. This success of this film is success of all those volunteers, activists, thinkers, writers who kept this flame alive. You know, like in marketing, we say you can market an idea only if there's a latent demand. And this latent demand, this latent narrative was kept alive. So it's a big victory and success for them that they are being now heard. It's being recognized. People are acknowledging the genocide. And it's opened up so many conversations. This is something which really, really baffles me. That which means there were so many conversations going around in drawing rooms and in offices and canteens and coffee shops, but they were never part of the mainstream. Now they've become part of the mainstream, not just of India, but I think all the international media, because in the last 7 days, I have received calls from every who's who of international media. And the first question they ask me about is Islamophobia. Fine, I say fine, since you do not understand, you want to create a narrative, but fine, at least you are discussing. The question is that, did you show this genocide because you wanted to polarize or there is Islamophobia? So one thing is good, they are at least using the word genocide. They are saying, their complaint is, why have you shown this genocide? Everything was going so fine. There was a lot of happy secularism was happening. And suddenly you came and you disrupted the whole thing. So you have no right to do that. And that's their complaint, basically. Not even one person from any side, political, religious, academic, psychologists, authors, thinkers, influencers, not even one person, not even the common people. Not even one person has been able to point out that which part of the film is not correct. Not even one. And the best part of it is that very often the people who love their country, who love their traditions, societies, who take a lot of pride in their heritage and history, and so generally they are labeled as non-creative or non-intellectuals. I am so glad. It gives me immense sense of satisfaction and pride to see so much of genocide art was created around this film. And so much of discussion on the art of this film. And my great friend, who I really, really respect a lot, Makranji, has done great service by writing about nuances which even I didn't know. Consciously, maybe subconsciously I knew, but thanks a lot for that. Okay, now what it means, this film, this success. If this film is not just a film anymore, it's not about the numbers, it's not about what it's doing commercially, but more importantly, it's become a mass movement at 2-3 levels. Level number 1, we have understood the value of, see, as in marketing, they say A, B, C, D centers. A is all metros, and then B is mini metros, C are smaller towns, you know, and then the D are like, who cares? They are just statistics. They exist only for elections. Even marketers don't reach them. We have become such a city-centric society that we have forgotten about these people and their desires and their voice. And I want to tell the entire Kashmiri Pandit community, anybody who's listening to this, you should be very happy to know that the biggest support to your cause has come from people who we call illiterate, lower class, poor people. Pan wale, they have been giving free pan to people who showed tickets. I was in Kanpur recently, and the Iron Man, jo kapdon pe istri karta hai, he was doing free ironing of one set of clothes for if you show a ticket. And rickshaw walas were giving free rides for this thing. Even pani puri walas were not far behind. Some few Jyotishis also started this, you know, reading your kundli free if you show them a ticket. I am a people's man. I'm always amongst people. And I kept asking these people, why are you doing it? And they said, because this is the truth of our people. And the world must know the truth of our people. And the second response was, they said, when they heard the speech in the end of that boy, the protagonist, they said, we never felt so proud of our rich culture and heritage. We always thought Kashmir is like, something else. It's part of India, but it's not really us. So there was this feeling of otherness with Kashmir. Yes, it's a problem of Kashmiri Pandits, but it's not our problem. It's their problem. We are just supporting them. Now, suddenly, after seeing the references of Sharda, Saraswati, and Shiv, and Kalidas, and Natishas, and all these things, they understood Marthan Temple. They understood that ultimately, who are we? What is this society? What is, after all, when we say our society, our people, our nation, what is it? It is the connection with culture. We are connected through food, we are through music, through art, literature, stories, concepts, ideas. And this great diversity unites us. It makes us feel, yes, we are good, but somebody else also has something good. And how we take advantage of this goodness with each other, that's what makes a great society and culture. But this togetherness, somewhere we cut it off since partition, definitely, I know. People realize the importance of being connected, standing with each other, and being united. This film has shown how the youth of this country has got united. Just to give you a very statistical examples. In Kerala, Hindi movies hardly release. Only very big one, really huge films release, but very limited. I forced to release it in Kerala. It started with one show, and within few days, it became almost 120 shows. Kerala, and still running. Tamil Nadu, exactly the same thing. Wow. Bengal, it's been the top grosser in Bengal. Hindi films of this size don't release in Bengal. So what I'm saying, this support is coming from unexpected quarters. Yeah. The lower class. So this gives me, so I'll just crystallize it to point number one, what it means to India. It means to India that Bharat is alive. The only problem is the Bharat. See, there is a divide, Bharat and India. India is doing all the discourses. Bharat is not doing discourses. The moment they got to know about this, in the film, there's a line of Anupam Kher. He says, "हमारा सच जाके पूरे भारत में बताओगे ना, क्योंकि जिस दिन भारत को हमारा सच पता चल गया, देखना कैसे पूरा भारत हमारे साथ खड़ा हो जाएगा." It didn't happen for 32 years, but now, when the Bharat got to know about the truth, see how they are standing with all the Kashmiri brothers and sisters. This is what this film means. Point number one. Point number two, that for the first time in a long time, I don't know, since I have been born, during the World War, CIA spent billions of dollars to convince Hollywood studios and producers to work or act as soft power in the moment of national crisis. And they did, but they never stopped. It was a time-bound project, but they never stopped. Till date, if you see wherever you go in the world, even a child sitting in Nairobi or Kenya, who doesn't go to school, 7-year-old kid, without clothes, who's sitting there like a skeleton, you ask him which is the greatest country in the world, he'll say America. He doesn't know politics, he doesn't read newspapers, he has no access to information, but he has seen Hollywood movies. So very cleverly, America has used Hollywood movies as soft power. In India, we failed to do that. We just did very superficial stories, and we never ever brought into limelight, to global light, about what India actually means. And I always say, not as a joke, but very seriously, when you go to a foreign country and you want to know about their problems, their aspirations, their culture, their architecture, their food, you watch 4 or 5 movies, you'll get to know what this country is like. But in case of India, if you watch most of the mainstream movies in the last 10, 15 years, post-liberalization, those movies generally, you learn more about New York and London than you learn about India. Because they also started importing a culture into Indian movies, and where it's so far away from the reality. So far away from the reality. The Student of the Year does not represent Indian youth at all. You know, you are creating fake characters and fake stories and relationships. And actually somewhere, I'm not saying every movie has to be about it, but what I'm saying is the general thread in Bollywood movies has been a lot of fakeness, artificiality, and what they call escapism. But escapism also, if you see, has to basically emerge from reality. You show reality and then you escape from that reality. Superman, the real character, is very real, like anybody else, like any middle-class American. And then the ordinary man does extraordinary things. So if you have to travel to Rwanda, even before going to Rwanda or Googling, if you see a 2-hour movie, and you will know about what's the problem with Rwanda, what is Rwandan genocide. You know, how do we know about Holocaust? Through Hollywood movies. Nobody has gone and read those books of World War II. Nobody does that. Nobody has read about Holocaust. People have seen an Holocaust. Therefore, it was very important when I had met Dr. Surinder Kaul and then later Dr. Rakesh ji. That's the first thing I told them. I said, the problem with this story is, this genocide, is that there's no visual imagery of this. We need to create a very honest visual imagery. And that's why I need to talk to people. I hear it and see it from their point of view and try to find the most common denominator story and present it. In fact, the last speech which you have heard in the film, a lot of contribution has come from Rakesh Kaulji, sitting at his house. And most of it, in fact, a lot of ideas, I had shot a lot of ideas which he said, but then I had to edit them out, and which when I release the extended version and deleted scenes, you'll be glad to know the way he has spoken about the economics of the genocide. It's a chapter by itself. Somebody needs to write a book on that. I had to take it out because it was a very emotional moment in the end, and I didn't want people to think about numbers and this thing. So anyway, so now this film, if I am taking extra time, please warn me, somebody, just because I want to share. This is the first time I'm talking about these things, you know.
Speak freely. We have ample time. Speak freely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So, yeah. So what we did was, GKPD, Global Kashmiri Pandit Diaspora, they formed a union of diversity, a diverse organization. 36 different organizations came together to help screen this film in USA. And they were ranging from World Sikh Organization to Jews Organization to American Physicians Association to Maratha Mandal and Telangana, all kinds of everything, all 36. The thought behind that was, what if we can use this film for diplomacy as soft power of India and impress upon the world that it was not an exodus. Exodus can also take place if there is a flood. This was not an exodus. This was a bloody genocide. So we focused on policymakers and senators and congressmen. And let me just tell you, because all friends are here and all good people and noble people are here, so I can share. In front of media, I get little because they manipulate things out of context. It was a deliberate decision. It was a very well thought out, very rational plan with an objective and a strategy. Our strategy was that we didn't want to start the screening in India. Because in India, if we had done that, everybody has skin in the game. It would have immediately converted into BJP versus Congress, Hindu versus Muslim, and Tutu, Meme, and media would have hijacked the whole thing. And they eventually did also, actually. But by the time, it was very late. It was very late by the time media and politicians jumped into it. Before that, we did 16 screenings in USA, mostly the diverse ethnicities, Blacks and Jews and Syrians and Yazidis and Baluchistani people, Sindhis, all kinds of persecuted people from the world who had zero idea about this. Zero. In fact, I can tell, not 100%, but a lot of people didn't even know anything about India. There was a black woman who told me that before this, I just knew a little bit about India, that yes, it's a country, Modi rules it, but I had no clue what India is all about. I don't even know what language you guys speak. But the language of pain is universal. It has universal resonance. You don't need words for it. So when we showed it over there, the message which went out, that we are united in telling this story to the world. 36 organizations, not a joke. And all educated, successful people work like volunteers. People can see this. So they saw we are united. Then those people must have sent WhatsApp messages back home. Then they also said, okay, we have to go to the mayor, bring him. And slowly there was kind of a competition that how many senators, congressmen you can impress upon. A lot of people saw it. We went to congressional reception at the Capitol. Guy gave lots of impact speeches in all universities. And we said that this debate, I actually had this conversation with Surendraji. And I said, Surendraji said that, listen, we should not sound as if we are against anyone. And I said, that's exactly what the film is about. And I must tell you, in the film, we have never, ever, not even once used the word Muslim to generalize. We have spoken only about terrorism, nothing else. The only time we have used the religious connection was when he talks about Iraqi and calls him Islamic tyrant, because that's what they were, Islamic tyrants. But for the contemporary politics, we have never used that word. Second thing is, we did not use the word Pakistan. We have just shown Benazir's speech, but we have, as creators, we deliberately did not use that word. Our idea was to focus on terrorism. So when Surendraji talked about humanity, we said, yes, in America, we'll talk about humanity. And this film is basically about humanity, because it shows you when humanity is attacked by terrorism, what happens. We wanted to show the real face of the enemy of humanity, which is terrorism. Now, this is a creator's choice. If you want to show today's Ram Navami, so I can say that we know the greatness of Rama lies in the power of Ravan. When you show how evil somebody can be, then only you understand how heroic it is to survive and to win the war. So therefore, it was very important to show the real face of terrorism, what it means to be inhuman. So we showed the face of inhumanity. It's like if you advise somebody how to live good life, people will listen and then they'll forget about it. But if you show them, you tell them about death, then suddenly they start taking good care of their own life. All of us have seen during COVID, how suddenly we became conscious of life because the death was looming. So when you show terrorism looming on your head, then you understand the value of humanity. And also you understand and you appreciate the struggle, survival, and success of this community. 100% educated ethnic community. And where is this wisdom coming from? So my deep research, I realized this is the DNA of Saraswati. So much of focus, not only on education, but to music, culture, values, food. Every single house I went to interview, even in Jammu, very lower middle class people also. They always serve, Rakeshji, correct me if I'm going wrong, they told me there should be 7 or 9 colors, on the table. So I think I have a feeling 9, that's what I remember. So they have so many dishes with different colors and aromas and all that. It very rarely happens, So I realized that very strong values of education and wisdom is coming. And that gave me a very strong sur, as we call it, to speak in America. And I spoke about Shiva and Saraswati. If you listen to all my speeches at Harvard Club and all the universities, I've spoken about the concept of oneness. The entire philosophy of Advaita and Shaivism, which is about oneness, that's what I spoke about. And people understood that we are not against anybody. We are only against terrorism, and we want justice to start with acknowledging that genocide took place. And I have to tell you, we were extremely successful in that. All the credit goes to all the volunteers, people, GKPD and all other organizations, Rakesh ji, Surinder ji, so many people, I can't even name them. And you will be delighted to know that all the supporters and fans and the audience, people who watch this movie in US, they contributed, donated money, and they put up a huge billboard at the Times Square on the 26th of January, the same place where Free Kashmir campaign billboards were put up, almost the same place. Where in the history of cinema something like this has happened? Never. Which means the film started working like a soft power in USA. And then came India. India, there was zero budget for marketing. Zero, when I say it means zero. I guarantee you have not seen one newspaper ad or one radio ad or TV ad or billboard or hoarding, nothing, absolutely nothing. So I love to walk and move on and just go from places to places, show it to 10 people, 15 people, 20 people, because I have great belief that if people connect with something, then they own the film. And we always said it's people's film because it's everybody's problem. Genocide is not just Kashmir's problem, it's India's problem. It's humanity's problem. It's everybody who breathes on this earth planet, it's his or her problem. So in India also, we did the same thing. We started showing it to people. And slowly, this great word of mouth started exchanging between India and the global audience. And in no time, within 2 days, Friday it released with 60 shows overseas. And in no time, within 2 or 3 days, it became almost 1,000. And that happened because the demand started coming from the countries where never ever a Hindi film released. Norway, Helsinki, Finland, Mozambique, you know, these kind of places, Luxembourg, Estonia, there are only 250 Indians. And some 700-800 people saw the film within 2 days on the weekend, which means who was seeing it? If Indians had 200-250, even if they were doing repeat show next day, still there were 200-300 more counts than that. So slowly it started. By this time, everybody had underestimated us. The entire, there is one group which believes in humanity, which says justice should be done. The other group is which justifies terrorism. So the other group which justifies terrorism had actually underestimated. Thank God they did it. So first few days, 7, 8, 10 days, they did not even bother. They thought, okay, maybe it's a phenomenon, it will die. But then they realized that everybody is talking about it. All the stars in Bollywood, they didn't care about the film, but when they were going to promote their own film, media was asking them about the Kashmir Files. So people had to take notice. And this happened because people owned the film. And people owned the film doesn't mean it's a physical object that people went and owned it. People owned an idea. And the idea here was that terrorism is the biggest enemy of humanity. And I must give credit, forget media right now, because what media says is something else. But the common people were talking about the film, they were talking about empathy, they were crying. This became the first film which was seen in pin drop silence all over the world. Today I was sitting with somebody who came from San Francisco, and he was saying, this is the first film I have ever seen. For 3 hours, people watched it in pin drop silence, which means people give it due respect. People became part of that sorrow. People connected with that sorrow. And that's why I always keep writing that this film is uniting Indians. And when I say Indians, so many Buddhists, so many Christians, and thousands of Sikhs, they write to me, they meet me, and they tell me, we never felt so united as we do now. So sometimes people get united in pain. So the second conclusion is, Rakesh ji, that the film has worked as soft power. Where we take it from here is another discussion. And last, I would say, I'll divide it into 2 parts, A and B. So A is that it has demolished, if not demolished, it's a very harsh word, I should not use it. It has shown to the world, to India especially, that yes, films can be made without Bollywood mindset. Bollywood is a mindset. It's not an office where you go 9 to 5. It's a mindset. And the mindset is that audience is not intelligent. That's it. Everything else people say is gossip, nepotism, and this, and Khanwood and Dawood. That's all, most of it is gossip. The truth is that I worked here, right from studios to producers to even the spot boy will tell you, make it as dumb as possible because rickshawala will not understand. This is one example which is given from the most intellectual poet, communist leader of Bollywood to a very cool producer, director of Bollywood. Everybody. We made it with a written objective that audience is more intelligent than us. People are saying, they are discussing politics in a room. 5 intellectuals are discussing politics. You know, and the JNU politics, Pallavi is talking about Lalita Aditya. Who cares about these things? So many names, the hero, in the end, when he puts out the list of the great people who are from Kashmir, people said, no, people will lose interest here. But I said, no, audience is intelligent. They want to know what is not being told to them. And the native intelligence, I trust native intelligence more than academic intelligence. Sorry, a lot of academicians, sorry, Makranji, please excuse me, pardon me. But that's what I believe, And that's exactly what happened. It opened up new market. The regular Bollywooders, people who see Bollywood first day, first show, they didn't go to see this film. The people who were seeing this film came from a different world, which means the market is so big, Bollywood has failed to even exploit and actualize that market. So the lower class people, the rickshawala, has understood this film better than lots of people who are still seeking nuances in the film. My logic about nuances is, film is very nuanced. If you see all the names and the way Krishna and Arjun, all those things, Makranji has written a lot about the art of it. But it's a very nuanced film. When it comes to other characters, the food they eat, there are a lot of nuance. And then the food we show, she says, "Agar tum Nadru nahi jante ho, to Kashmir bhi nahi jaan sakte." All these are very nuanced dialogues. Mitunda says, "Toote hue log bolte nahi unhe suna." These are very nuanced dialogue. There are movements in that. But the problem is, the dominating part is terrorism. And how can terrorism have nuance? You have written that story of terrorism. If you have not left any nuance in that, how can I bring nuance in it? That would be fake. There is no nuance in terrorism. So therefore, there is no nuance in your story. Now, why do you expect me to just, beautify it and put some nuance in your story? And there is a nuance, If you see when this Bitta comes to meet Krishna in the boat, in the Shikara, there's a little child, and he says, say hello to him. He speaks to him in English. And that's exactly what's happening in Kashmir. All these people who are talking about, rigid Islamic laws, their children are going to Europe to study, and they talk to their children in English. Their children wear jeans and everything. They are not wearing kurta pajama. So there's a very nuanced symbolism over there. But then the people don't understand. But this thing, a lower middle class, a villager understood better than anyone else. So it's a very important part that now so many filmmakers will touch upon many harsh truths without caring about Bollywood or the box office, because they know people are ready to listen. And the B part is something which is very, very close to my heart, and that is about Indic Renaissance. And this film, I think, somewhere can help. I don't know where it will go, but the kind of confidence it has given to young people might be a start. Because if we see all the creative people, they have made art, music, literature, poetry around it. They have not gone into bashing anybody or criticizing anybody or abusing anybody, which is a great victory. And this has also given hope that outside politics, a lot of things can be done. The reason so many of us are sitting here listening patiently to my extended observations, it is a proof itself that we are wanting to do something. And now it is very important for cultural or intellectual leaders from our group, people like Subhash ji, Rakesh ji, Makran ji, Pinky ji, Lakshmi ji, and everybody present over here, for us to use this energy and convert it into bringing about Indic Renaissance. We need it. Yesterday, I was in Thailand, so they took me to their #1 university, and they made me pose exactly at the same place where Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore stood, to pose exactly there. And then to another place where Subhash Chandra Bose also posed at that time. Now, if you look at that period was really full of Indic Renaissance. It was, look at the kind of writers, poets, authors, thinkers, social activists, politicians for that matter. Gandhi was also almost the same time. So Ambedkar, I mean, you plethora of thinkers and writers, and that's what gave us freedom from the colonials. But right now, it is very important for us to give us freedom from terrorism, from forces which are fragmenting us. It's very important for us to be united. It is time to succeed. And this can happen if we help empower a lot of young people. Vivekananda said, give me 100 people, that famous quote, and I will transform this country or society. I don't know. I have a feeling he never found 100 people. Makranji knows, I don't know. But I believe maybe he found 99. I am the 100th one. I am also one of them. So that's why I'm non-stop working on this. This Kashmiri Hindu issue, this genocide issue, we requested MP government, they have allotted a land on which I said, let's create a genocide museum. Actually, it is a humanity museum, but it shows to people what happens in the absence of humanity. That's my objective. I have nothing to do with it. I have just, because I could do it, that's why I did it. I asked him, but very soon I'm going to leave it to people, great people, a lot, some people who are sitting here also, some who are not here. And then it's very important we create that museum as an example. Besides that, I'm also empowering a lot of young boys and girls. I have associated with Makhanlal Chaturvedi University. If somebody wants us to be associated with any other educational institution, we are willing to put some scholarships to start with on Kashmir culture, politics, art, literature, those kind of things. If somebody wants to create music, I am willing to sponsor them. Somebody wants to do some research work, we are willing to sponsor them. Somebody wants to make movies, I want to sponsor them. We are doing it because we think the people have given us so much of love and support. And it is like the film belongs to them. Everything which comes out of this film, even the little power to negotiate with politicians, I must use it to better cause. This is not just one story of genocide. We have many stories like this. I'm sure some young people will get inspired and they'll also make stories, bring them out. So this is golden period. In the end, I just want to read out one thing. Some of you may have seen it. The biggest success of this has never happened in India before, anything like this. I don't know much about what happened after Schindler's List, but I can tell you in India, nothing like this happened. I received this message after one screening somewhere, and I'll read it out to you. This is from Girja Tikku's sister. And I'll read exactly the way she sent me a direct message, and with her permission, I posted it and I'm reading it before I end. She writes, watched your movie today. My late sister Girja Tikku was a brave girl, and we never discussed or even talked about her at home. Whole family was going through depression and guilt of not being able to do anything for her. Now you showed her sacrifice in your movie. Now, for the first time, we have started talking about her within family. Your movie is starting healing process within traumatized families. And this is not just the one. There are hundreds of people who are saying our healing has begun. And let's not make the mistake of thinking this is the healing of only Kashmiri Hindus. I think this is the healing of Bharat collectively. And that's why everybody has owned this cause. And we are lucky to be born in the time when we have seen this magic, that when people come together with honest and sincere empathy, then they are capable of changing the world. Thank you very much.
Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.